Hey guys! So this is my labour and delivery video, if you can't guess by the title. And I'll try and do this as quickly as possible, but there's quite a lot to obviously update you guys on and let you know, and I apologise for my face. I know I look awful, but honestly I don't have time anymore to put on as much makeup and worry about all of that stuff, and I know I look tired, so sorry. So on Saturday the 22nd of February, at like 4:30 in the morning, I woke up with really strong contractions and needed the toilet, went to the toilet, and I had a bloody show. And yeah, then I started getting more contractions. Now, to start with, I wasn't really sure whether it was definitely contractions or not though. I was really like, okay, this is quite intense, but it was a lot more, I had a lot more back pain. Basically I had back labour, and I had a lot more cramping and pushing like around my lower tummy, and I'd always thought or been told or read that it starts as waves down from the top of your belly to like lower, and it didn't for me. So I was like, is this really it? And I was really confused. So I decided just to start timing, because they said if obviously it comes consistently and gets close together, so like that, then it's most likely to be contractions. So I started timing it, and they did start getting closer together, and by 9 in the morning I was like, right, they'd met the 5-1-1 rule, you know, being 5 minutes apart for lasting 1 minute for over an hour. It was like a couple of hours before I was convinced that, okay, I should ring the hospital. So at 9 AM in the morning I rang the hospital. By this point I did start to do a vlog, but my camera messed up and I caught part of it, and I might put it in but I might not, because I didn't catch anything else, as I'll explain as we go along. But I'm really gutted, but I ended up leaving my camera here, so we didn't get anything in terms of the birth and that, which I was so gutted about. But at the end of the day, there's nothing I could do about it. So I rang the hospital at 9 in the morning, and they weren't convinced that I was in labour properly. They were like, oh, you were probably in like early labour, so like just see how you go, last at home sort of thing. And I was like, well, when do I ring you guys again? When do I come in, sort of thing? And so they said, well, if your waters break or they get so intense they're basically one on top of the other. And I was like, really? I was really pissed off by this point, because I felt like I was in quite a lot of pain, and they, you know, obviously didn't want me to come in, and I was like, you know, I didn't want to miss out on my labour. I wanted to get my water birth. So yeah, I took their advice, I stayed at home, and I laboured all through the day, and it was horrible. Like I constantly felt like, you know, I was in quite a bit of pain. I took paracetamol, I tried having a bath to relax myself, and nothing changed it, nothing made it obviously any better. And by that night I was getting so strong contractions that like they were making me sick, and I was throwing up. And I just kept on, like, I was in tears. I was saying to Liam I didn't know what to do, because I felt like they were just going to turn me away again. And eventually he convinced me to ring them at like 2 in the morning sometime. And so we rang them again, and they were still like, no, I don't really think you're in established labour, but you can come in if you really want to. And I was just so fed up by that point, so I was like, screw it, let's just go. So we went anyway. We got there, they put us in triage, which is where they sort of check you out sort of thing, and there's like other people there. And the lady that was dealing with us was like coming in and out quite a lot, because she was dealing with another woman, so she wasn't with us for quite a while. I was still throwing up, which was horrible, because I had to get Liam to run off and get me like something to be sick in. And yeah, eventually she put me on the monitor, disappeared for a while, and then eventually when she came back she realised quite how intense I was, you know, in pain I was, and realised that I was actually throwing up with each contraction. And then she got a bit more concerned, decided to check me internally, and I was already 8 centimetres. So I had to have been in labour for a lot longer than what they thought, basically. I was so annoyed, so frustrated, because it felt like I'd literally just been robbed of my labour, and that's what I'd been scared of happening before, because I'd really wanted to be able to know that I was in labour and be calm and be in the birthing pool, but I didn't obviously get that. And because I was 8 centimetres, it was too late. They wheeled me around to the delivery suite, delivery room, and whilst on the way there I was already pushing. Got there, pushed for about 45 minutes-ish, but timing seems a bit off, like I can't really obviously remember everything, I was just completely gone. And yeah, my baby girl, my little baby Isla, was born at 5:49 a.m. on Sunday the 23rd of February. So like, to some people that's an amazing labour, and don't get me wrong, I'm glad that it was kind of quick, but because it was so quick and I felt like I was going to get to the hospital and be turned away, even though I was in this intense pain, I was convinced myself that I wasn't in labour, and I felt like I was just going to be there for ages. And because then it suddenly all happened all at once, and within like an hour I had my baby after thinking that I was going to be going home. It was kind of like, oh, well, now, like, it just felt really traumatic and a bit fast for me. And it was really hard. Like, when they even handed me her, I was just so in shock that I just didn't know what to do. I was just like, what? Yeah, so it was quite emotional and quite like surreal, and I am still looking back on it a bit disappointed about the whole like not getting to, like, that they made me stay at home for a lot longer than I should have really, and that it was lucky really that we even decided to go in, because otherwise I would have been having my baby here by the looks of things. But hey, it was still not that bad compared to obviously what a lot of people go through, so I am grateful for that. And obviously I got my lovely beautiful girl at the end of it, so made it all worth it. So we ended up staying at the hospital for the most of that day. It was kind of a bit, looking back on it, I kind of wish that the midwives had taken a little bit more interest and a bit more care with us. They sort of left us to it, and I know we could have asked for a lot of things, but because being first time mum and dad, I didn't want to be pestering them all the time. I wanted to just get on with things. But looking back on it, I think we could have done with a little bit more help and being checked up on. But yeah, so we ended up staying there, having a few visitors come and see us, like Liam's parents. My mum came and see us, and a few friends and stuff. And then we had to stay there until they checked the baby and checked us. And we eventually got discharged at like 9, I think, in the evening. Came home, and that first night was awful, so bad. She was up the entire, like, had us up the entire night, just literally wanting to feed constantly, which was painful because I couldn't get her to latch on very well, which we later find out that it was all to do with tongue tie. But for ages it just felt like I honestly was blaming myself, thinking I was doing something wrong. I was also still feeling really ill at this point. I hadn't been able to eat that much, and over the next couple of days I still carried on feeling really sick. Couldn't eat properly. My milk came in on the second day, so that like drained me as well. It was like my body was working to produce milk and supply for Isla, but wasn't really recuperating me very well. And yeah, I just was not coping very well. I just was ill, and obviously looking after a baby, not having slept since that 4:30, like on the Saturday. I hadn't slept at all, like maybe 20 minutes if that, because she was literally awake the entire first night. And then we had a few midwife checks and stuff, and they kept on just saying, oh yeah, it's hard, persevere and stuff. They didn't seem to think anything was wrong. And then on Monday, 3rd of March, which was my birthday, so it was like the week sort of after, I had still been feeling awful the entire week and knew something was up. And then I had a postpartum hemorrhage on my birthday, first thing in the morning. It was horrible. So we had to call the ambulance, and I got taken to hospital, obviously, and it was a nightmare because even when we got there, they had to try and put an IV in me, which took forever for them to find veins for them to actually do it from, and to get bloods from me. It was just, it was horrible, and I felt awful. And obviously I was constantly worried about Isla because I was supposed to be feeding her, and I couldn't, so they had to, in the end they had to supplement and give her a formula feed, which, so yeah, I wasn't too happy obviously about having to supplement the feed, but at the end of the day I was all trapped up with loads of stuff going on around me and people putting needles and stuff in me that I couldn't really feed her. So yeah, after various tests and stuff, they eventually thought that I might have part of the placenta left in my womb, and that my body was trying to clear it out. They said that obviously it can be bad because obviously I could develop an infection, so that's why they took bloods to check that whether I had or not, which I didn't. And because I didn't, I then eventually got transferred because they put me in a side room and then they took me back to the delivery ward, which was not fun because obviously I'm on a ward with loads of newborn mums in like the cubicles that you get, and that's where I stayed overnight with Isla and Liam, breastfeeding, because I did continue breastfeeding with an IV in my arm, which was really painful and difficult trying to feed a baby who's wriggly as well, who doesn't latch very well, and obviously the noise and the heat was just, oh, it was so hot in the hospital, and yeah, it was just horrible. And obviously there's other newborn babies crying, and yeah, it was just like we got no sleep again, and yeah, so it was just really not fun. And also throughout the night they kept on giving me every like 3 to 4 hours, I think it was, they were giving me antibiotics through the IV, which was horrible as well. And they kept on coming, checking my obs, doing like my temperature and my blood pressure and stuff like that every so often. So it was like, even when I was trying to sleep, I'd get interrupted constantly, and yeah, it was just a nightmare. Then the next day they had planned for me to possibly have an op done where it would clean out my womb. I was petrified to have it. I didn't want to because they would have to put me on general anaesthetic, and I didn't want to be put to sleep, and I was so scared. Luckily the doctor then decided that before he wanted me to have a scan first to see if it was definitely necessary, because there was a chance that if I'd had the op that it could damage my womb, which is obviously not good. So they decided to give me a scan first to see if they could see any big placenta left and if it was worth doing the op. They took me for the scan and couldn't find anything like that. The doctor did say that there could be small parts left, but that most likely they should be flushed out, especially with antibiotics. So he put me on antibiotics for a week, made me stay for the day to finish off the course that I was on through them, like through the IV, and then sent me home with antibiotics, like pills, which I've taken for the last week. And he had written down for me to come back for a review this week, but when on Friday, we went to the hospital for Isla's tongue tie, which went perfectly fine. She didn't even make a fuss, it wasn't even that difficult, and she fed really well afterwards. Still hasn't completely solved her latching issues. She still fusses on and off, and isn't great at latching, but sometimes are better than others, but I'm still persevering with breastfeeding as much as possible. But yeah, whilst we were there, we decided, because they said that if I hadn't got a letter through by the end of the week to say when my appointment was to go and see them or ring them, and obviously whilst we were there we thought, well, I was going to go and see them. So I went back up to the ward to find out about my appointment, and it turns out that they don't really normally do that. They don't normally do appointments for the ward, and the doctor that they think that I'd had was someone like a step-in person that wasn't there normally, and they let me see a doctor that was there then and that normally works there, and he said that they wouldn't normally ask me to come back for any reason, and he was a bit confused as to why this guy had. He checked me over, did my obs and stuff, and went through what had happened and everything with me, and he said that it sounded pretty normal, that it happens to quite a lot of people, and he seemed a lot more, I don't know, down to earth about it. Didn't seem to be as much of an issue to him. He seemed to think that like my body was just flushing it out and that it should continue to do so on its own. He said obviously if I feel completely unwell for whatever reason and like feel or have a big hemorrhage obviously again, then I was to go back in. Since then I haven't. Obviously I've been okay. I still feel kind of icky on and off. My appetite has come back, and I do feel a lot better in myself, but obviously I'm still tired because I'm still getting sleepless nights from Isla, which is to be expected really with a newborn, but also she is feeding a lot more than the typical newborn, which I found out recently. When I went to the tongue tie thing, she fed afterwards, and she fed for quite a while, which wasn't, like, for me it wasn't like that was shorter than time than she normally was. She normally is literally on and off of me for about 3 hours sometimes, like quite a lot. And they were waiting for her to come off, and then eventually I explained that she's on quite a lot, and they were like, whoa, she's feeding a lot more than the average newborn. And they said that it was probably a good thing because she's actually gained weight. She never lost any weight over, like most newborns lose a little bit of weight to start with. They drop a little and then start gaining. Well, she didn't. She stayed the same and then started gaining, and she's gained a little bit now. So yeah, I have an extremely hungry baby, and because of that my supply has slowly really drained since then, and because obviously of everything happening, and she had the formula feed, I feel like since then it's basically meant that we've had to keep giving her one formula feed basically in a 24-hour period roughly, because my supply just isn't quite enough for her, and she's literally she gets like really fussy and really upset if we can't, obviously, like she's literally trying and trying and trying, and she's still obviously getting some, but she's not obviously getting enough to sustain her for long enough, not enough to sleep for a good amount of time, and she's getting restless. So I talked to my health visitor today about it all, and she agreed that it's probably best if I try and do both, do breastfeeding and formula feeding, because I need to give myself time to recuperate and try not to obviously have another big bleed, and obviously it seemed like it was draining my body. So I'm a bit disappointed because obviously I wanted to exclusively breastfeed. Wasn't expecting it to be quite this hard. I knew it was going to be hard, don't get me wrong, I know breastfeeding's hard, but yeah, I wasn't expecting quite as much drama to happen and for me to feel quite like this. So it's been one hell of a roller coaster, and that's why I haven't obviously been able to do this for you guys. And I will be doing a video where I introduce you guys to her as soon as possible, but I knew I wouldn't be able to get this video done if she was right here. So Liam's taking her out for a drive for a little while just so I can get on and do this video for you guys. I think I've covered pretty much everything about my labour and delivery, and obviously what's happened with the whole postpartum thing. Otherwise, we're doing kind of okay, just slowly adjusting and getting used to life with a newborn. We love her to pieces, obviously, she's adorable, drives me insane at night, but well, that's to be expected. So yeah, if there's anything that you guys want to know, I'll try my hardest to get back to you as soon as possible and answer all your questions. I think that's it. So I shall hopefully show you Isla in the next couple of days, so stay tuned for that.